Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Reality Kingdom, where we put the real in reality or whatever. I'm your host, Pharaoh, and as you see, it is early in the morning, and I am live, and we are going to be discussing everything that's going on the Big Brother live feeds. First of all, if you are new here, this will give spoilers of the Big Brother live feeds. Obviously, girl, you already got spoiled. You already got spoiled. I'm sorry. I had to put it on the screen grab. I did. You're probably mad. Don't unfollow, subscribe, do all of that, because I'm going to be updating you on all the tea and all the details of what exactly happened, why Mickey used her power, who was the HOH. All of that tea is about to get exposed right the fuck now. Girl! Now, for the girls who might be here and who have only been watching the episodes and are a little behind, I'm going to give y'all a quick little recap. So, last night, not twice. Last night, we saw the eviction episode occur, and on the eviction episode, the people on this blue side of the screen, Riley, Keanu, Catherine, and Kelly, were the only 4 people who voted to evict Will. Every single other person in the house voted to evict, who went home? Adrian. So it's early, y'all. So because of that, it kind of separated the house in a certain way. If you did not know, people thought the people on the blue side, Keanu, Riley, Kelly, and Catherine, thought the game was split half and half. They thought Zach, Vince, Lauren, and the 4 of them were all on one side, and then everyone else on the pink side was all on another side. So they were expecting Zach and Vince to vote with them. When the feeds came on, after everything that happened, we saw that the new head of household was Riley. Riley is our new HOH. Let me get this image. Well, was. Riley was the new HOH when the feeds came back, and we saw a few discussions going on. One of them was with Vince and Keanu. We saw Vince and Keanu were discussing everything that happened with the vote, and it sounded like Keanu was okay with what Vince did. Vince and Zach turned on all of them. They all are kind of annoyed by it, but Vince seems like, at least with Keanu, he got away with it. Keanu is still mad at Zach, though. So Keanu feels like Zach is a snake. He doesn't really like him, and it seems like Vince is kind of okay with it. Very recently, a few minutes ago on the live feeds, Riley and Catherine had a conversation about how Catherine called out Zach for the vote situation as well. Catherine is very upset with Zach, and I'm assuming she's upset with Vince, but honestly, y'all, it feels like more people are annoyed with Zach about it. It seems like Vince is kind of slithering his way by with a lot of the people on this side, maybe because he had a little bit better connections from it. So it seems like Zach has pissed people off, but not enough, in my opinion, for them to fully turn on him. Kat said, I called out Zach, but I want to keep that door open in case we need him in the future. Riley was like, I don't trust him. I just like him as a person. She's like, I like him as a person as well. So although they seem annoyed with Zach, I don't necessarily think Zach or Vince are getting turned on or whatever, right? So Riley was the HOH, and we saw Riley have a conversation with Keanu in the boxing room. And Riley is talking to Keanu, and he's saying, well, I feel like I'm going to be nominating Mickey, Ashley, and Morgan. Riley wanted to nominate Mickey, Ashley, and Morgan, and he said, I want to flush the power out of the game. He felt like either Mickey or Ashley had the power. In this conversation, Keanu was like, I feel like it's Ashley. Ashley has felt super comfortable for the last couple of weeks, and it doesn't make sense because she's been in danger, yada, 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 yada. Riley's like, that makes a lot of sense. I think it's Ashley as well. So he's going into this week. He's planning on nominating Mickey, Morgan, and Ashley. His target was actually Ashley. Ashley was the target of the week. So if Riley was the HOH, which he is not anymore, he would have been targeting Ashley anyways. I will say Ashley could have potentially won a competition, which would have left Mickey and Morgan on the block. And depending on the renom, we would have had to see what was happening. Now, on the Mickey, Morgan, Ashley side of things, Mickey, Morgan, and Zach were having a conversation about how the heavy hitters need to stick together. Now that Zach and Vince have kind of turned on this side of the house, they seem very, very loyal to the heavy hitters. They're having strategy talk with Mickey and Morgan. Morgan and Zach are having strategy talk a lot more confidently than I feel like they were at first, because they know they're in hot water with the other side of the house. So it's looking like this heavy hitter situation is actually going to be relevant moving forward. For a reminder, the heavy hitters is Vince, Zach, Morgan, Rachel, Mickey, and Jimmy. And they seem like they're actually going to have to be a group now that Zach and Vince have kind of turned on the other group of the house in a way. So that is what was going on. The heavy hitters was trying to figure out a plan to get Ashley. And they also said Will. They were like, if we can convince Riley to get Ashley and Will on the block, we could be good to go. I think that's probably what was going to happen is maybe Ashley, Mickey, and Morgan would have been nommed. And if veto was used, they were going to try to get Will nommed. And by the end of the week, Will probably would have ended up going home, or maybe Ashley. So the truth is, even if Riley stayed HOH, because the heavy hitters is becoming the core alliance, I don't think Mickey or Morgan would have went home, because I think the heavy hitters would have been the priority. And I think Will or Ashley or someone else who's less valuable would have ended up on the block by the end of the week. If I'm being honest, I think strategy could have saved them anyways, but none of that really matters, because the feeds went down for 2 hours. And when it came back, we found out that Mickey activated her power. Her HOH interrogation power was activated. We talked about yesterday, actually. We talked about on our live feed eviction breakdown. Should Mickey use this power? Will this power work? What should we do with the power? And we were saying she shouldn't use it because so many people know about it. And one of my theories was, if Mickey uses the power, Zach and Vince could hint to the HOH Riley that she's the one who has it, because it's better for Zach and Vince if Mickey, Rachel, Morgan, and Ashley are targeted, so that way they have numbers. What we've seen in the past is Zach and Vince are extremely passive players. So although that would have been the best thing for them, it seems like Zach and Vince did not tell Riley that they think Mickey has the power. It seems like they allowed Riley to believe it was Ashley, because when the feeds came back after the 2 hours, we found out that Riley's HOH was dethroned, and Mickey is now the new head of household. He genuinely guessed wrong. And I don't know how that is, because every single person thought it was Mickey, clearly, except Riley, I guess. So that's what happened. Now we have a new HOH for the week. Mickey is HOH. When the feeds came back, we saw Riley and Catherine talking. Riley mentions how it isn't fair. And honestly, to speak on that really quickly, I'm not mad. Riley saying it's not fair, I don't have a problem with that, because it genuinely is unfortunate. I think the worst thing ever is getting your HOH taken away. Like when Shima was crashing out, I'm not finna gaslight Shima and say that was not right for her to crash out. Shima should have crashed out. That was very disrespectful that her HOH got taken away from her. At least this one was at the beginning of the week. And also, I'm not a fan of Riley, so I'm kind of okay with it. But I do think it sucks. But he should have had better connections. He should have had enough information for him to understand that most people thought it was Mickey and choose right. He chose wrong. And they made that power in a way they nerfed the power, because they made an opportunity for the HOH to keep their HOH. And in the past, they haven't done that. Shima didn't have a chance to keep her HOH. Angela last season, when Quinn used it, did not have a chance. The only person who had a chance to keep their HOH in this type of power is Riley, because they actually changed the way the power works. So I do feel like he had a chance. He had people who should have been his allies, who should have been loyal to him, who should have steered him in the right direction, and they didn't, because he's not a good strategic player. And that's what we heard Mickey talk about to Morgan, I want to say. Now that she is the HOH, she was discussing with Morgan, I think it was Morgan, y'all, it's early, about how Riley and her had a conversation, I'm assuming after her power got used and she took over his HOH, and he was trying to explain to her, like, no one talks to him, he's not in any alliances, and it makes him upset because no one wants to talk game with him, and he's the victim, and yada, yada, yada. And Mickey is like, well, that's not necessarily true, because we all try to talk game with you. And me, as a feed watcher, I can fact check that we don't know. David Jimenez says, who did he choose? We don't know who he chose instead of Mickey, but right before the feeds cut, him and Keanu were talking about thinking Ashley has it. So I think he chose Ashley, when in reality it was Mickey, and that's why he got it wrong. But yes, Riley, off season has been refusing conversations. He was actually in the Heavy Hitters Alliance. The Heavy Hitters Alliance used to be Vince, Zach, Morgan, Jimmy, Rachel, and Riley. But Riley got usurped out of the alliance and replaced by Mickey because he refused to ever speak game with them. They asked him, can you come to the HOH room so we can meet? He said no. They said, can you talk to us about this? He said no. He refused to actually talk strategy with the group. So he got removed from the alliance. And now he's saying no one is talking game with him and he feels left out. And Mickey feels like that's not true because you literally... I tried to talk game with you. People have literally tried to talk game with you, and you have refused to do that. So that is what's happening. Mickey is now the new HOH. We didn't get a clear discussion about who she plans on nominating, but if I had to guess who she might plan on nominating, I would say, honestly, that because she used the power on Riley, in my opinion, she kind of has to nominate Riley. Do you know? Y'all know what I mean? Like, you can't use your power on someone to take their HOH and then not target them. In my opinion, Riley should now be the target. You use your HOH power on him. You dethroned him. He was literally crying when the feeds came back. And I do feel like because of that, she should have no choice but to nominate Riley. Right? Theodore says, if Mickey, Ashley, and Morgan were the final noms this week, does Ashley go home? Yes, I think Ashley goes home. I kind of talked about what probably would have happened earlier. And what probably would have happened is Keanu and Riley were already targeting Ashley. The Heavy Hitters were already talking as if they need to stay together because Zach and Vince just flipped on the other side. So I do think Ashley would have went home. Unless Ashley would have won a comp, then I think Will probably would have been renominated and Will could have went home. Anyone in I think the Heavy Hitters would have been safe because I do think they're starting to form into the only group in the house. But I think because Mickey is now the head of household, she has no choice but to nominate Riley. And because she has to nominate Riley, she also has to nominate Catherine. In my opinion, if you're nominating Riley and Catherine, you need Riley or Catherine to go home. Because of that, I think she should avoid nominating Keanu. In my opinion, she should nominate Kelly because Kelly might be able to win, or she could nominate Keanu and hope that the veto gets used on him. But this is the issue. If she nominates Riley, Catherine, and Keanu, and Catherine wins the veto, and then Riley wins the blockbuster, she's fucked. So she needs to nom someone who can win the veto or the blockbuster, like Kelly. So in my opinion, she should nom Riley, Catherine, and Kelly. If Kelly wins the veto, she's going to use it on herself. And then if Kelly wins the blockbuster, she'll be safe. So either way, one of Riley or Catherine will stay nominated. And then one of Riley or Catherine can go home instead of Keanu and Kelly. Because in the flip side, let's say she puts up Riley, Catherine, and Keanu. If Kelly wins veto and she uses the veto on Keanu, now you got to put up somebody else, which will probably be Lauren. That's the thing. There's a chance that Lauren could get on the block this week as well if the wrong circumstances happen. I think the rotation of nominees are Catherine, Riley, Kelly, and Keanu. If one of them uses the veto on the other, I think Lauren then becomes an option, but that's after the fact. But yeah. That's how it's going. Or she could just nom Catherine, Riley, and Lauren and make a deal with Keanu and Kelly and kind of just target that trio of a situation because Catherine and Lauren are very close. Riley and Catherine are very close. In a way, you could just target that trio of people and go that direction as well. Because honestly, Mickey doesn't have a great relationship with Lauren anyways. So Mickey could do that. She could just not nom Keanu and Kelly at all and just target Lauren because she's been trying to work on Keanu in the past. Rachel's been trying to work on Kelly. In a way, she doesn't have to put either of them up. Right? So we'll have to see. That's my theory of what's going to be the rotation of nominees. It's going to be some of them. And people were in the chat were talking about how Catherine would never win veto, but Riley would. And if Riley wins veto, he's using it on Catherine. Riley is either throwing the veto to Catherine or using the veto on Catherine. If Riley and Catherine are both playing blockbuster, he's probably helping Catherine in the blockbuster. Riley's going to do everything he can to make sure Catherine gets off the block, which is why I think this week Riley is probably the most likely to actually go home. And honestly, I pray that is what occurs because I'm not the biggest Riley fan. But yes, y'all, that's what's going on. Tidor says maybe Rachel could convince Mickey to target Vince this week. I don't think that's going to happen because of how extreme the heavy hitters conversations were right after Riley won the HOH. The truth is, the only alliance in the entire house is the heavy hitters. Mickey, it wouldn't be smart for Mickey to go against that. I think this is protecting her just as much as it's protecting Vince and Zach. Plus, she just used the power on somebody else. So, girl, you got to get that person out, to be honest. But dang. Patty P says it's funny that Mickey usurped Riley in the heavy hitters and then usurped his HOH, literally. Now, I think the last question is going to be, is this going to mess up Mickey's game? Yes. I think even though she was successful, this just made her the biggest threat in the game. I genuinely feel like the talk about her being a threat was already there, but with this move, she's definitely a threat. What's the only thing protecting her is the heavy hitter. She needs to have a heavy hitters meeting and ensure that she is not going to be left out of that alliance. Heavy hitters needs to be a thing for Mickey more than anybody else because Mickey is going to be in danger. Riley and Catherine, whichever one of them stay, are going to be coming after her. I feel like Keanu and Kelly are going to be like, this girl is a threat. Lauren is going to be like, she's a threat, but Lauren wouldn't nominate her, but Lauren would vote to evict her, and that's a problem. So all of that is scary. I feel like long-term, deeper in the game, Zach, Vince, Will, Ava, Morgan, they're going to remember Mickey is the girl who used the power and flipped the house. And Mickey is the girl, she has become a very huge threat within these last 2 weeks. So I do feel like there's some fear in that. We do need to be scared of if Mickey is a target. But yes, y'all, Mickey's the HOH. We got to keep our eyes peeled on who's going to be the nominees because she hasn't actually talked about it. Those were just my theories. But I got to go to work. Baby, I'm late. So I will talk to y'all later. Make sure y'all get into the other stuff really quickly. I do want to say that I do have my after show every single Wednesday. Last week, I had Bailey Pelham, the winner of Big Brother Canada, on my after show. The week before that, I had Jessica Milagros, and she spilled some tea about Big Brother behind the scenes on my Big Brother after show. And then my next Big Brother after show will have Ethanimo. So on Wednesday, I will be speaking with Ethanimo the same way I spoke to Jessica Milagros and Bailey Pelham. And you guys can ask him and me questions about this week, about our thoughts, about the game, about himself, if you want to, using the hashtag Kingdom Speaks on Twitter and on Blue Sky or whatever you want to ask me the question. Just make sure I see it at us at T Reality Kingdom. Make sure y'all subscribe and follow if you're new here. We give live feed updates all season, and we do multiple live feed recaps every single Tuesday. We've had Quinn on from BB26. We've had Leah on from BB26. We have future guests that we're expecting to have on for the future weeks. So make sure y'all get into us. Make sure y'all subscribe. And thank you guys for keeping it real with the Kingdom, baby. We're out. Bye.